morning.
Good morning.
I was teasing Althea earlier, it seems a little wrong. We're in the wrong role. She should be doing the talk and I should be facilitating. We're going to give her that chance. Next month we'll switch. So this morning I'm going to talk with you about emotions. And I'm going to use the only lab subject I know well enough to discuss, myself. I hope that in sharing some of my challenges, there may be something that you find helpful, or at least familiar. So if I asked you to imagine your life as a jigsaw puzzle, and I wanted you to describe to me what the final puzzle would look like when you're at the end of this lifetime, what would your answer be? Maybe you'd be willing to ponder that while I talk with you a while. We'll revisit the question later. The idea for this talk started when I had the daunting task of writing the eulogy for my grandmother's celebration of life service back in May. Trying to illustrate an amazing life that spanned over 95 years was quite a challenge. And like most eulogies, part of how I attempted to accomplish that was by talking about the things my grandmother, Elizabeth Hickman, loved. One of those things was jigsaw puzzles. I'm sure there are many analogies out there as to how life is like a jigsaw puzzle. My take on it was that we cannot know the entirety of a person, only a piece. For example, you might think you know me, but I'm going to share some things today that might surprise you. The clerk at the grocery store might have a completely different awareness of who I am, depending on how I respond to him or her in our brief encounters. So we each hold a piece of the puzzle that is a person's life. And in coming together and sharing our memories, we put that puzzle together and get a more complete picture of the individual. Of course, writing a eulogy also made me think about someone might say about me at my celebration service. I'm pretty certain that some folks would say some pretty nice things, and they'd be right. I'm generally a pretty nice person. I also suspect there might be a few that have a different opinion of me. And they'd probably be right too. Sometimes I'm not so nice. I heard a quote recently, something about how we don't really remember days, we remember moments. So every moment, every encounter I have is just one more piece of the puzzle of my life. I get to choose the picture created by all the moments when they come together in the end. During a board meeting, I shared the story of doing my grandmother's eulogy, and the suggestion came that perhaps I might want to give a Sunday talk about this puzzle piece idea. I got a nudge from Michelle. Actually, she kicked me under the table. And later I got a God nudge. You know what I mean, right? That feeling in your gut that you should do something, but your head is just screaming at you not to do it. Oh, Hickman, why would you want to take that on? Get up and do a talk in front of a bunch of people, a bunch of really nice people, but still. And do it not once, but twice in one day. And then the ideas just started coming at me like crazy, so I knew it was mine to do. But this talk is not a eulogy. So how to fit this puzzle piece idea into something that might be of interest to unitics and like-minded individuals? One of the God nudges I got was an idea surrounding love versus fear. Some of you may be familiar with Neil Donald Walsh, the author that wrote the Conversations with God series. There's a concept described there that there really are only two emotions, love and fear. All the others spring from those two. It's fairly easy to determine which emotions spring from fear, anger, depression, hate, judgment. Emotions that constrict. Actually, almost all emotions that feel like imprisonment. From love, compassion, empathy, joy. Emotions that expand or provide a sense of freedom. Gary Zukav, author of Seed of the Soul, says this about emotions. Experiencing love can happen by grace, but bringing love into your life permanently requires commitment to grow spiritually, courage to feel your emotions, observe your thoughts, and recognize your intentions, compassion for yourself and others, and making all your interactions conscious and loving. It requires recognizing, experiencing, and changing the painful parts of your personality that do not love and do not want to love, such as the parts that are constricted in fear, consumed with anger, and wasting and self-loathing. In other words, experiencing love requires becoming aware enough in your life to choose the most positive action each moment. The idea that all emotions spring from either love or fear is not so hard for me to wrap my head around. What gets a bit more challenging is the idea that I get to choose how I feel about something. For many of us, I think emotions are something that just seem to happen to us. It's like being in the ocean and a monster wave hits you and takes your breath away. That's what emotions feel like to me sometimes. That's how it felt when I came home to find that the puppy had chewed through the treadmill cord again. So, how do you choose an emotion? The interesting thing, and something that Reverend Kristen taught us, is that most, if not all of the emotions I have begin with a thought. So if I become aware of the thoughts I'm having, I might be better able to guide my emotions. Scientists claim that we have roughly 35 thoughts each minute. That's a lot of thoughts. I really ought to be getting a lot more done if I'm having that many thoughts. Of course, that doesn't tell me anything about the quality of the thoughts that I have. If they're coming at the rate of 35 a minute, there's a good chance some are getting in that I don't even notice. Certainly a good deal, quite possibly a majority of those thoughts are not based on any fact. They're most likely judgments, perceptions, and opinions. Many of them may not even have been my own thoughts originally. It might be an old tape I'm running of something my mother or father said that I decided was truth. It might be something a teacher said that I replay in my head. The quality of those thoughts, be they negative or positive, based in love or fear, makes a big difference in how I feel and how I experience my world, and then how the world experiences me. In this way, emotions can become signposts. They can help us to know where we are and what are the quality of our thoughts. And remember, our thoughts are prayers. One thing that not many people know about me, and some might find it surprising, I have an anger problem. The bad news is it can be pretty severe. The good news is that I tend to go into rages only against inanimate objects. My mailbox is a good example. Once, several years ago, the door on my mailbox got stuck. Try as hard as I might, I couldn't get it to open. I tried everything I could think of. All the while, my frustration was growing, and suddenly, I found myself beating the snot out of my mailbox with a wrench. I'll tell you what, the darn thing opened. It's interesting, isn't it? Even the language we use to describe emotions leads us to believe that we aren't in control of them. Notice how I said, I found myself beating the mailbox like I didn't choose to do it? I remember when I would have anger episodes as a parent, I would describe it to others as an alien inhabited my body and made me say horrible things. Now those are kind of funny stories now, and laughing about it can help me lighten up. But in the moment it occurred, it wasn't funny at all. I have made no claims to perfection or having this all figured out, and still that's not a story I'm proud to share. And as I see my daughter struggling with her own anger issues, I feel even worse. Those are also not isolated incidents. My old car didn't have a gas cover, you know, the door that usually covers the gas cap? That's because I ripped it off when I needed gas one day and it was frozen shut. In this day and age of video capabilities on nearly every phone, it's a bit concerning too. If someone had a video going during one of my rages, I'm pretty certain I would feel very embarrassed, and I'd probably be all the rage on YouTube. This is actually another tool I try to use. Anthony mentioned it in his talk a few weeks ago, and I have personally found it to be of incredible value. I become the observer of my life. It's rather like watching a video. I play back what is happening, and my role is just to observe and be aware, not be a critic. When I watch with curiosity and an open mind, not a judgmental one, I can note things I want to change next time. So what does all that anger mean? What would lead me to get so upset about something so trivial? Pretty sure it isn't love. So what is it that I'm afraid of? That's something I'm working on. I'm pretty sure one aspect of it is expectation. When my expectations don't get met, it leads to frustration, which can quickly lead me to anger. I realize this because I notice I get angry with my dogs on occasion, but I almost never get angry with my cats. Now, those of you that are familiar with cats know that cats are generally not rule followers. I know that, and I pretty much never expect that they will do what I want them to do. Dogs, on the other hand, well, apparently I have a belief that they should be obedient and do what I say. So when they fall out of line, I get upset. Seriously, when the cat knocks something off on the floor and then looks at me like, what are you going to do about that? I just laugh. If one of my dogs knocks something off the table with his tail on accident, I yell. Pets are furry teachers, you know. So somewhere in there I have a belief that I'm attached to about dogs being obedient. If I start to question that belief, maybe I could give the dogs a break once in a while. Apparently, I also have a belief that mailboxes and other inanimate objects should subjugate to my will. Neil Donald Walsh says that we're afraid of not getting what we think we need. And when we let go of need, we have nothing to fear. Letting go of need sounds a lot to me like recognizing my Christ nature. When I allow the awareness that I am love, I also know that I don't need anything. That at the core of my being, I can't be hurt. From this awareness, fear has no hold on me. The amazing thing is that I don't have to find the answer. I'm curious about it, but it's not necessary to solve the mystery. Awareness is the key. Just being aware of my thoughts and my behaviors and taking responsibility for them is enough to help me change those behaviors. I wouldn't want to leave the impression that I think anger or any other emotion is bad. Anger and all the other emotions, be they love or fear-based, serve many purposes. For one thing, they connect me to others. I know that the anger I feel is the same anger that someone that acts violently toward another person has. I feel more compassion for people because I recognize it in myself as well. Emotions also make life interesting and rich. I simply don't want to be bounced around like a puppet on a string by my emotions. I want to feel them, let them rise in me, greet them, just like Reverend Madej mentioned in his reading of Rumi's The Guest House, and let them go on by without overreacting and spreading negative energy. Let's revisit that poem for those that might have missed it. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be cleaning you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide for beyond. If we believe that our thoughts affect our emotions, then thoughts and the belief we attach to them become very important. Some of you may know that my car is covered in bumper stickers. My favorite of those is, "Don't believe everything you think." We do tend to believe ourselves, you know. If we just have a thought and don't attach to it, it doesn't gain much power over us. If we become attached to it, if we believe that it is true, that's when the troubles usually start. Our bodies definitely believe our thoughts, even when we're sleeping. Ever had a really bad nightmare? You know, you wake up heart pounding, dry mouth, feeling panicked, kind of like I feel right now. Or maybe in the dream you're angry with someone, and you wake up and you can barely look at them, but they didn't do anything wrong. Our bodies believe our dreams are real, and our minds believe our thoughts are actually happening and happening now. So if you're having a heated conversation with your boss on the way home in the car, but your boss isn't really there, check your heart rate. Chances are it's a bit high. You're also releasing stress hormones that affect your health and well-being. There's now evidence that the traumatic emotions you experience affect your DNA and cause stress and anxiety in future generations as well. When our thoughts run away with us, it can change our experience. Let me give you an example. Recently, I went to the doctor for a routine visit. Now, most of you that know me are aware that over the last year or two, I've managed to lose a lot of weight. Now I'm in the maintenance phase, and I'm finding that to be a challenge. I knew I gained a few pounds, and I was not interested in knowing how much. I don't know about you, but sometimes my chosen response to a problem is to avoid it. When I stepped up on the scale at the doctor's office, there was that number that I'd been worried about, right there, no way to miss it. Now, prior to this moment, I'd been feeling just fine, in a pleasant mood, nothing bad in my awareness. Right there, in that moment, I had a choice. I could have used all the tools I have and decided to come from a loving place instead of a fearful one. Some days I'm better at it than others. And in this particular moment, I chose fear. When I saw that number on the scale, instantly, I was aggravated, upset, perturbed. Now physically, not a thing was different. Nothing in the exterior world had changed. Only my awareness of a few pounds of weight gain. But suddenly, I felt lousy. All because I had a thought and became attached to it. That lousy feeling followed me all the way to the next morning, and of course, as usually happens, I found a few more things along the way to aggravate me as well. Someone called into work, and I had to cancel all my plans for the day to provide coverage. I somehow managed to pour my oatmeal into my coffee cup. You know, one of those days. All because of a thought and a belief about the thought. Everything changed when I went to get some ice water and ran into another employee in the kitchen. Let's call her Julie. Instantly, my attitude got adjusted like magic. You see, Julie has a 36-year-old daughter that just got admitted to a nursing home because she is dying of cancer. That 36-year-old has two girls, 13 and 16, who are going to lose their mother very soon. Julie is going to lose her daughter and inherit those two teenagers and get to raise them during the time of her life she might have thought she would be retiring from such things. Suddenly, my few pounds seemed very unimportant. I decided to change the way I was thinking about that weight. You see, I was coming from a place of fear. What if I gain all the weight back? What if I can't find a way to exercise? And on and on. What would that thought look like if it came from love? Wow, Hickman, you've gained a few pounds. Then again, you lost 100. Chances are pretty good you might be able to lose a few pretty easily if you put your mind to it. Besides, those numbers on the scale don't mean anything about who you are. I also remembered to be a good friend to myself. If I was talking to a friend that was having fearful thoughts about weight gain, what would I say to them? You idiot, you better get on it, you're going to be fat again in no time. Of course not. I'd be loving and supportive and compassionate. Why is it that we are so hard on ourselves? Now, why is this so important? Does it really matter if I waste a few hours out of a lifetime worrying about my weight or feeling negative? I've decided that for me it does. I decided a few years ago that I wanted to have more positive moments than negative ones. For one thing, when I'm feeling good and feeling clear, I'm naturally more kind and compassionate to others because I'm not distracted by a lot of negative chatter. I saw a movie a while back entitled Beyond Belief. The movie is about two women who developed a friendship after their husbands were both killed in the 9/11 attacks. They decided to turn tragedy into something good, so they started raising money for widows in Afghanistan. They eventually traveled there to meet the women they were helping. It was a great movie, and this quote was from one of the women's uncle. There is a way in which each of us makes small choices every day. And after a period of time, those choices develop into a pattern, and we might be thought of as choosing ourselves, so that each moral, ethical choice forms our identity as we move. It seems to me that the terrorists that flew those planes into the building on September the 11th, they started making choices a long time ago, small ones, one day after another, until their choices took them so far from the center that flying a plane into a building seemed like the right thing to do. It's like any one of us. We choose our way, into being ourselves. And I think that's what they did, the widows in this story. Between violence and love, they chose love. Between retribution and forgiveness, they chose forgiveness. Between death and life, they chose life. They chose who they were, who they would come to be. I've been feeling rushed lately, too many things to do and not sure how I'm going to manage them. Several times in the last few weeks, I've spoken curtly to someone or made an assumption about something and immediately felt badly about it. These are little moments. I thought someone had taken my seat one day and moved my precious camera bag. Turns out it was not my stuff, not my seat. I didn't scream at anyone or beat anyone up. I just didn't handle it with consideration. I was asleep at the wheel. I recognize that is not who I want to be in the world. I choose to focus my attention on the good. And my personal belief, one that coincides nicely with Unity principles, is that since I am connected to all beings, what I focus on does matter. That energy or vibe that I put out affects everyone around me. Besides, I've always loved this quote by Herm Albright. A positive attitude may not solve all your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worth the effort. If I am blessed enough to have the time to reflect back on this amazing life in some sort of life review, I want it to be filled with as many moments of love and joy as possible. Love and compassion for others, and love and compassion for myself. I feel like every day I'm making a movie of my life, and in the end I'll get to replay it. I want that movie to be a romantic comedy, not a drama or a tragedy. Jean-Paul Sartre said this: there are two ways to go to the gas chamber, free or not free. This is our choice in every moment. When you came in, you were handed a blank puzzle piece. If you didn't get one, please raise your hand and the ushers will deliver one to you. If you would, please take your puzzle piece and on one side write love and on the other fear. Sometimes it helps me to have a reminder, a touchstone to help keep me on track. I wanted to share this touchstone with you, hoping that you will consider in the days ahead that choosing love brings many benefits to you and all those around you. So, what will your puzzle look like when it's all assembled at the end? Will the picture be a joyful one? If all the people you've ever encountered, not just your loved ones, but each and every person you ever encountered, the grocery clerk, the neighbor's pesky kids, heaven forbid, your ex, showed up to say their goodbyes and they each brought a piece of the puzzle, what would it look like? It doesn't matter what the past held. Don't use this as just another reason to beat yourself up. Choose love in each moment, starting with this one. And remember to choose love for yourself, too. If you become aware that you made a choice from fear, see if the next choice can be from love, starting with forgiving yourself for not being perfect. Our lives are made up of moments. I hope your moments are filled with laughter, joy, inspiration, and love.